In the 13th century, a powerful force emerged from the east, reshaping the balance of power in the Middle East, the Mongol Empire. Under the leadership of Genghis Khan, the Mongols expanded across Asia and Eastern Europe, leaving a lasting impact on the region, including the dynamics of the Crusades. The Mongol incursions into the Middle East altered the existing power structures. The Crusader forces, which had primarily been engaged in conflicts with Muslim powers, now encountered a new and formidable empire, prompting them to reassess their strategies. As the Mongols advanced westward, various factions in the region, including the Crusader states, faced uncertainty. Those who had been focused on defending territories in the Holy Land now had to navigate a rapidly shifting political and military landscape. In 1258, the Mongols captured Baghdad, then the capital of the Abbasid Caliphate, marking a significant moment in history. The fall of the city led to major cultural and political shifts in the Islamic world and had an indirect influence on the course of the Crusades. In 1260, the Mamluk forces of Egypt, who had previously been involved in battles against the Crusaders, confronted the Mongols at the Battle of Ain Jalut. The Mamluk victory at Ain Jalut halted Mongol expansion into the Middle East and reinforced their position as a dominant power in the region. Following the Mongol defeat, the Crusader presence in the region became increasingly unstable. Although some Crusader-held territories remained for a time, the overall influence of the Crusades waned amid the evolving power struggles. With the fall of Baghdad and the Mongol retreat, the Mamluks emerged as a central force in the Middle East. Over time, they also engaged in campaigns against the remaining Crusader states, eventually bringing an end to their presence in the region. In 1291, the Mamluks captured Acre, the last major Crusader stronghold. This marked the conclusion of nearly 2 centuries of Crusader rule in the Middle East. Although the Crusades ended with the fall of Acre, their historical legacy continues to be studied today. The encounters between different civilizations during this period had lasting cultural, political, and economic effects that shaped the future of the region. The Mongol presence in the Middle East, though relatively brief, the Crusades not only reshaped the political landscape, but also facilitated cultural exchanges between Europe and the Middle East. Crusaders returning from their campaigns brought back new knowledge in mathematics, astronomy, philosophy, and art, which had been preserved and developed by scholars in the Islamic world. Muslim scholars made significant advancements in various fields, and European scientists exposed to this knowledge later built upon these ideas, contributing to the intellectual growth that would eventually lead to the scientific revolution in Europe. Eastern art and architecture, particularly from the Abbasid and Ottoman periods, influenced European artists and architects. Decorative techniques such as Arabic calligraphy and geometric designs began to appear in European artistic and architectural works. The Crusades also played a role in expanding trade routes between Europe and the Middle East. The exchange of spices, textiles, and other valuable goods introduced Europeans to new commodities and broadened their understanding of the world. The fall of Constantinople in 1453 to the Ottoman Empire marked the end of Byzantine rule and further facilitated cultural exchanges between the Islamic world and Europe. This event also contributed to the conditions that led to the Renaissance. The Renaissance in Europe saw a revival of humanism and a renewed interest in classical knowledge from Greece and Rome. Many of these classical works had been preserved and studied by scholars in the Islamic world, playing a crucial role in their rediscovery. Interactions with Middle Eastern states during the Crusades underscored the importance of diplomacy and strategic alliances for European powers. These experiences influenced the development of European diplomatic practices in the centuries that followed. The Crusades also introduced new military technologies and strategies to Europe, such as advancements in siege warfare and cavalry tactics. These innovations influenced the evolution of military practices during the Renaissance. Despite the conflicts of the Crusades, there were moments of mutual respect and cultural exchange between Christian and Muslim societies. Some of these interactions contributed to early interfaith dialogues and intellectual exchanges. Although the Crusades concluded with the eventual dominance of Islamic powers in the region, their long-term impact on Europe was significant. From trade and cultural exchanges to developments in art, science, and politics, the Crusades played a role in shaping the course of European history. The Crusades played a role in expanding European interest in exploration. Following these events, many European explorers became increasingly curious about the world beyond their own borders, leading to new voyages that contributed to global navigation and trade. The Crusades also introduced Europe to valuable goods such as spices and textiles from the East. This exposure fueled economic growth and encouraged the development of trade routes that later became essential for global commerce. With expanding trade networks, European nations such as Portugal and Spain began to establish maritime connections that extended their influence to different regions, including Africa, Asia, and the Americas. Spain and Portugal emerged as leading powers in global exploration after the Crusades. Navigators such as Christopher Columbus and Vasco da Gama opened new sea routes, linking Europe with distant lands and facilitating cross-cultural exchanges. The motivations for European exploration were diverse, including economic ambitions, interest in new territories, and religious expansion. The Crusades had already introduced many Europeans to distant regions, further inspiring global exploration. The discovery of the Americas by Columbus and subsequent expeditions by other European explorers marked a significant chapter in world history. However, these encounters also had profound consequences for indigenous populations, leading to major cultural and societal disruptions. Through interactions established during the Crusades, Europe developed a broader understanding of different cultures, nations, and religions. These exchanges influenced how Western and Eastern societies viewed one another in the centuries that followed. Economic systems that evolved after the Crusades, influenced by increased trade with the East, provided Europe with new resources that contributed to its economic and political expansion. As part of global exploration, the spread of Christianity became a key objective for many European expeditions. Missionary efforts were often undertaken alongside economic and political endeavors, shaping interactions with indigenous communities in various regions. The Crusades and subsequent European explorations left a lasting historical impact. While they began as military and religious campaigns, they also contributed to significant economic, cultural, and geopolitical changes that shaped the interconnected world we know today. The Crusades had a lasting impact on European identity. The experiences gained, both victories and defeats, shaped Europe's perspectives on power, honor, and religion, influencing political and cultural developments for centuries. The Crusades also contributed to the development of a sense of unity among European kingdoms. Although Europe remained politically fragmented, shared religious and military campaigns fostered cooperation among different regions, influencing the later rise of nation-states. While initially aimed at strengthening Christianity, the Crusades had complex effects on the Catholic Church. Although the Church gained influence during the early Crusades, the later failures led to a decline in its political and moral authority, sparking internal criticism and calls for reform. Military tactics and strategies in Europe evolved significantly due to the Crusades. Prolonged conflicts led to innovations in siege warfare, weaponry, and battlefield coordination, many of which influenced later European military campaigns. The Crusades also facilitated extensive cultural exchange between Europe and the Middle East. European Crusaders encountered new knowledge, artistic traditions, and technologies, which helped spur developments in science, medicine, and architecture upon their return. Religious tensions that emerged during the Crusades contributed to long-term perceptions between different civilizations. In some cases, these tensions persisted in historical narratives and cultural attitudes, influencing interfaith relations in later centuries. The effects of the Crusades were also felt in the Middle East, where the conflicts contributed to shifts in political power and territorial control. The long history of interaction, both conflict and cooperation, between different civilizations left a complex legacy in the region. Beyond religious motivations, the Crusades also demonstrated how faith could intersect with political and territorial ambitions. This blending of religious and political objectives can be observed in various historical and modern contexts. The influence of the Crusades extended into European art and literature. Many artistic and literary works portrayed the Crusades as significant historical events, often reflecting contemporary perspectives on faith, heroism, and conflict. The legacy of the Crusades remains a subject of debate. While some view them as a demonstration of religious devotion and military ambition, others see them as a reminder of the complexities of history, including the consequences of war and interfaith conflict. The Crusades must be understood within the broader context of history and their long-term influence on global relations. While they occurred centuries ago, discussions about their impact on interfaith and international relations continue in academic and historical debates. The Crusades highlighted the intersection between religion and politics. Throughout history, religious motivations have sometimes influenced political decisions, shaping foreign policies and diplomatic relations across different regions. Certain strategic and ideological aspects of warfare from the Crusades era have parallels in later conflicts. The use of military power to assert influence and protect interests has remained a factor in geopolitical strategies throughout history. The ideals associated with the Crusades, such as bravery, perseverance, and religious conviction, continue to be reflected in various cultural narratives. These themes appear in literature, media, and historical discussions about identity and heritage. For some societies in the Middle East, the Crusades are remembered as a period of military conflicts that shaped regional history. These historical experiences contribute to broader perspectives on relations between different civilizations. Education plays a significant role in shaping perceptions of the Crusades. In different parts of the world, historical narratives about the Crusades vary, reflecting diverse viewpoints and interpretations based on cultural and academic perspectives. Modern media influences how the Crusades are remembered today. Films, books, and documentaries present different portrayals of these historical events, often shaped by the perspectives of their creators. The Crusades were a significant chapter in history that contributed to long-term religious and cultural interactions. These interactions, both cooperative and conflict-driven, have influenced historical narratives and intercultural relations over time. In the present day, efforts toward greater understanding between different cultures and faiths continue. Interfaith and intercultural dialogues aim